One day, I was sitting in my kitchen. I could see down the street. My mother was coming to visit. My father was already there. And she drove into the house 2 doors down.
She said I got up one morning and I had to memorize where everything was in the kitchen because I couldn't remember what was in the cupboards. That seemed to be the beginning of the dementia.
Boy, once you hear those words, Alzheimer's disease, people are afraid. They tend to hide it. They don't want anyone to know that something's going wrong.
Alzheimer's is a disease with many victims. It does not just affect those diagnosed with the disease, but it has a large impact on the family members as well. In Canada, the average family devotes around 400 unpaid hours a year to the care of their diagnosed family member. This kind of commitment can weigh heavily on those choosing to be caregivers. I spoke with Camilla Lawson and Marty and Joanne Halloran about their experiences.
It was a huge transition to become her mother and her caregiver and get her clothes and get her hair taken care of and her teeth taken care of and, you know, all the normal things that she would have done for herself prior to the disease. Yeah, it was really difficult. And I think it just finally has sort of registered with me, and I've accepted the fact that she's not going to be any different. You know, she isn't going to know me, and she isn't going to go back to being who she was. But it took a long time. I really thought I knew what it was going to be like because I had been a nurse and I had worked with Alzheimer patients in the past. And when it was my own mother instead of Mrs. Jones or Mr. Smith, it was a whole different set of feelings that I had never experienced before. It was, and looking back on it, I think what it really was grief.
She's still very much herself as she was, always worried about somebody else. And even when you're helping her eat her food, she'd say, well, you know, where's yours? Or for a snack at night, she'll take her little cookie, break it in half, and say, there, it's for you, and she'll give it to me, you know. Yeah. So part of her's there, part of her's not. So some days it's quite amazing. I mean, as I say, every day is different. And everybody's different, too. You see, most of the people here have some degrees of dementia. And but they're all individuals. The disease is an individual thing. You never know what it's really like until you go through it. So it wasn't new to me, but it's completely different when it's your own family member, because then you're on an emotional level. I can see a lot of myself in my mother. Right, Marty?
Positive.
Well, everything. We even look alike. And the more I'm with her, I'm seeing the more. Maybe that'll happen to me. I don't know.
I have not got a false idea that they'll, you know, if they find a cure tomorrow, I don't think it's going to cure my mother. My mother's now 91 years old, and she's had this for almost 10 years, and I would imagine that the damage to her brain would be irreparable at this point, just from my nursing knowledge. You know, I'm not holding that hope, but I am holding hope that they get some better treatments and or a cure, but even better, before I get there. It's made it very real, you know, with the idea that a lot of the women in our family have developed dementia in their later years. And I find myself really hoping that I don't live into my 90s, because I feel it's almost inevitable that that's going to happen.
The Alzheimer's Society of Canada provides many resources for caregivers and those diagnosed with the disease. They run support groups, events, and provide access to up-to-the-minute information. Belleville, Hastings and Quinte Executive Director Laura Hare describes how their Alzheimer's Society can be there to support families.
Somebody comes in, they come into this room, close the door, and we hear that life is not very good. And you want to fix it. You want to write a recipe that says, here, do these 4 things and everything's going to be okay for the next 6 months, and you can't do it. But what the families are telling us is that the opportunity to be able to come in and let that go and say, here's what life has been like, and to hear that what they're going through is other people are experiencing as well, is so helpful to them, that they'll go out, ready to get through another week.
I found it extremely difficult to see her like that, and I just didn't know how to handle it. And that was when I got in touch with the Alzheimer's Society. And they suggested the journaling, and it's not something I'm accustomed to doing, and it's not something I've ever done before or since. But every day for 6 months, I pounded out on my computer whatever I was feeling. And sometimes I was really happy, like, yeah, we finally got her to use the phone, after 3 months, I've got her to use the phone, And then other times, I would leave the nursing home in tears and, come home and pound out, I'm so mad about this, and why don't they do that?
I started actually keeping a journal. On this day, it was December the 16th of 2006. I don't know why I'm starting to write down my memories of my daily visits to my parents. I think the idea started a while ago as I saw my mother losing bits of her thinking and functioning. I hope I can read this. This week, most mornings, she would tell me she hadn't slept well because she was looking for someone in her dreams. Mother wants to do something about Christmas, but she can't shop. And I feel guilty because I'm not shopping for her. I try to reassure her that no one is expecting her to buy gifts. I find it quite amazing how well she copes in the kitchen, as long as the food is there and the meal planned for her. Tonight, though, a pot of carrots burned dry and will have to be thrown out. I feel like Maggie Muggins, who always said, I don't know what will happen tomorrow. I'm sorry.
Currently, there are 500,000 people in Canada living with Alzheimer's. This year, it is expected that a new person will be diagnosed every 5 minutes. There is a need to increase public awareness about the disease to prepare the next generation of caregivers and patients.
There still is stigma attached to saying somebody has Alzheimer's, because I think people equate it with mental illness, and there's quite a stigma to mental illness. So they don't understand it.
I don't know how you get over that. That really is a tough one. But I think we just need to see more and more of it and hear more about it until we realize what an epidemic it's becoming, and avoiding it isn't going to make it go away. And I think people have an awful habit of feeling that if we don't talk about it, maybe it won't happen, and that's not going to solve anything.